Well, the fight against terror in the country is still very much on, and the quest for Nigeria seeking to empower the Nigerian military with weaponry, well, is still very much the concern of the government and its people. Joining us to look at the relationship between Nigeria and the United States this morning, looking at it from the perspective of the fight against terror, is Dr. Thomas. He's a foreign affairs analyst. Good morning, and thanks for joining us. Well, I know you've been watching developments on this particular issue. Recall what happened when we were in South Africa with the imbroglio that followed, and now Nigeria has said, well, it has stopped the military training with the United States and has turned towards Russia. Now, let's look at how it got to where we are at the moment. What's your thought about it? Do you think that we can comfortably call that a frosty relationship now between Nigeria and the United States?
No, I do not think so. I do not think it's gotten to the level where we can start getting panicky, sort of, you know, and start making all sorts of speculations as to whether the relationship is now frosty or maybe it's getting too, you know, uncomfortable. I mean, the two nations are getting uncomfortable with each other. But really, it's been very sad that two friendly nations will get to this level. But it happens once in a while in relationships, you know, particularly between two nations or more. It happens once in a while because, you know, relationship is about, or your relations will, you know, span a period of time. So sometimes you have problems, sometimes you resolve, sometimes you have very cordial working relationship, which may take 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years. But we are at this stage now, as a result of the fact that Nigeria has not been able to manage the Boko Haram project or the insurgency enterprise properly in terms of pursuing a decisive and focused approach. I mean, having a focused approach or agenda towards nipping everything in the bud. It's like, you know, the way it's being done is like it's a child's play, and it's like deliberately some people somewhere want to make it a kind of an integral part of our existence in Nigeria, that, well, let us live with it. You understand? Because when 60 people, 120 people are dying, 250 people are dying, and we keep going on with, I mean, with business as usual. So it's like you want to make it part of life. You know, it's becoming part of our life. So that's why I believe that the U.S. feels that we are not being serious, you know, as to how to attack this particular problem.
What would be that thing that makes you feel that, or that has given that indication that we're not serious on this fight against terror?
A day, I mean, you hear of 60 children being bombed to death, and then the following day the president was declaring, you know, so it's business as usual. It doesn't show any sign of seriousness. A single life, you could see. One life, two lives, you see what kind of problems, what kind of national crisis it brings about. I mean, such things will bring about in US. Those are people who value lives. You know, when a nation treats its citizens, when a nation treats its people as if their lives do not matter, then nations that value, that to consider life to be sacrosanct, will definitely see or say that these people are not serious. It doesn't show any sign of seriousness. 60 is children, not people. Children being killed today, and then you are declaring the following day. It doesn't make sense. Even as a mark of respect, you know, as of 1960, Sikh was talking about respect for human dignity. This is how many years ago now? This is 54 years. And yet, what kind of dignity are you attaching to the value of human lives when you are declaring, when you see, the enthusiasm for politics is more than the enthusiasm for governance.
Okay, Thomas.
Yeah.
The relationship between Nigeria and the U.S. has been cordial, has been a good one, so as many will say. Now, to cancel that, the spokesman for the military, for the defense headquarters, was quoted as saying it's a strategic, purely strategic action. Now, they were supposed to be going to the third phase from the information we have. How do you think, or don't you think that the military has thought about what they were doing before they decided to cancel?
No, naturally and normally, you have what you call strategic and defense cooperation, or military cooperation between two nations. If you don't have a defense pact, or if you don't have this kind of stuff, but you have cooperation. And if you are talking about defense cooperation and you are talking of strategic cooperation, you are looking at maybe the training of your soldiers. You are looking at transfer of weapons, and you are possibly looking at some maybe the agenda for some other things, you know, which will help in assisting your security management. But now, for the first one, in terms of the Boko Haram thing, the US is saying that, well, they are not going to sell arms to Nigeria on the basis that, well, they have been very careful because of what happened in 80 to 88 between Iran and Iraq. You know, they poured out a lot of arms to Saddam. And that is the problem that is, I mean, that's what is causing proliferation of small light arms and heavy arms now, even in the Middle East and all over. So the US is now regulating, and they said they have already taken the decision that as a matter of policy, they will not be selling arms to countries with very serious and terrible human rights violations. And if they regard Nigeria as one, then I do not see why we have to say, okay, no, sell to us. Because number one, they are not even sure where the arms are going. They are not even sure, the ones you have, how far or to what extent have you been able to use them positively towards the particular action program, which you are, that is your target. How far, the ones you have you been convincing enough that, well, we have been using these ones and we have been achieving results? So, but you don't want to sell.
You know, sorry, a moment here, because well, in saying this, we also had Professor Dokubo here on Monday, and he raised a very important point, asking that when we talk about rights, we should also ask ourselves who has the moral justification to talk about rights, knowing full well that the United States is not a signatory to the Rome Statute. So if it's not a signatory to the Rome Statute, that is the ICC. So, and we have seen cases of the Abu Ghraib prison, how some of their men can't be brought before the criminal court because they're not signatory to the Rome Statute. So why dictate to Nigeria how to go about it when we know we're fighting terror?
Well, it's a psychological thing. This is your partner, and it knows that in terms of global stature, in terms of global popularity and global prominence and even dominance, you are like a subordinate. So in a relationship like this, sometimes you can be two partners. I mean, you can be partners with equal rights. But in another relationship, you can have a master, you can have a servant, you can have a subordinate, you can have a superior person. So it depends on how you carry yourself. It is the way you carry yourself. It is the way you portray yourself. It is your actions that will determine how your partner, or what kind of respect your partner will have for you. So if Nigeria is being treated and being dictated to, it shows that, well, one country, that is the United States now, is saying, look, I'm a superior partner. I'm a superior person, I'm a superior partner in this relationship, so I have the right to dictate to you. And you could see, they are even the people telling us that, well, your government has said we should not train your soldiers, so they are the people giving us the information that your government has said we should stop training your soldiers, that but it's unfortunate, we don't know what has happened.
Is Nigeria trying to assert itself in this
Yes, in a way, it's trying to assert itself, but to what extent? I mean, to what length, or maybe to what extent can we go in doing this? Do we have the stature? Do we have the military capability? Do we have even the diplomatic clout? Do we have the economic power? You know, we are facing crisis now. These are nations, I mean, the United States is a nation that you can hardly confront in terms of, you know, whatever, in terms of, I mean, in a situation like this, if you do not have the capability to be able to match them military for military, diplomacy for diplomacy. In what area, in what aspect, where do you want to take them to? This is a nation that can determine your fate at the United Nations Security Council. This is a nation that can even do all sorts of things to you at IMF, World Bank, and all sorts of things. So you are a member of AU, ECOWAS, and everything. Do they even bother about such things? Do they even bother about such organizations? So the organizations that matter in the world system, these are the people controlling them. These are the people in charge.